They told us that death is the end, that the light we see at the end of the tunnel is a biological trick, electrical sparks in a dying brain. But what if that light isn't ours? What if it's the beginning of a transaction, one we never agreed to? For centuries, death was cloaked in mystery. Priests spoke of ascension, scientists spoke of silence. But behind both explanations, there exists an older, more harrowing theory, one passed down in esoteric circles and encoded into forgotten manuscripts. It suggests that the moment we die, something watches. Not God, not angels, but a presence, patient, precise, and very old. According to declassified files from a Cold War-era Soviet experiment codenamed Project Black Echo, certain individuals who were revived after flatlining reported identical experiences beyond the tunnels and lights. They described standing before vast machines humming in silence, surrounded by entities not of this earth. The accounts were dismissed, labeled hallucinations. But the scientists weren't so sure. In a series of classified memos, one neurologist, Dr. Alexei Voronov, wrote, their EEGs were flat, no synaptic activity, and yet they described the same architecture. It's not just coincidence. Something is imprinting that memory during clinical death. What Project Black Echo uncovered was disturbing. Each subject described an unseen force drawing something from their core, something they couldn't define but felt viscerally. One patient, a man named Viktor Kravchenko, scrawled a single phrase over and over in his post-recovery journal. They took the fire, they left the shell. Dr. Voronov became obsessed. He began comparing near-death experiences across cultures. The Mayan Xibalba, the Egyptian weighing of the heart, even Tibetan death rituals. In each, there was a common thread, a force that arrives at the moment of death, not to guide, but to extract. By the late 1980s, Voronov had drawn a terrifying conclusion. Death, he believed, was not a spiritual journey, nor a mere end of biological function. It was an energy transfer. The moment consciousness dissipates, a type of metaphysical charge is released, a pulse of energy, one so potent it could be used, stored, even consumed. He wasn't alone in this belief. Hidden among the ruins of Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, researchers discovered carvings not yet deciphered by mainstream archaeologists. But among the forbidden circles of comparative esoterica, some believe the symbols represent machines' massive receivers aimed not at the stars, but at the departing souls of the dead. And here's where the story grows darker. During an excavation in 1992, a team of unauthorized explorers unearthed a series of deep, winding tunnels beneath the site chambers lined with obsidian and resonating with strange harmonics. Devices were found, now hidden away by private collectors. Devices that, according to one anonymous insider, pulsed when brought near cadavers, as if reacting. But the question that haunted those few who knew was, reacting to what? There's a growing belief among a secretive international circle of physicists known only as the Quiet Assembly that human consciousness emits a measurable but untraceable energy upon death, an energy unaccounted for in current thermodynamic models. They call it soul wave. According to leaked correspondence, soul wave is the final echo of consciousness, a burst of unique, high-dimensional data released in the instant we cross over. And there are those who feed on it. These are not demons, not gods, not aliens in the conventional sense. The Quiet Assembly refers to them as harvesters. They exist in what one physicist chillingly called dimensional proximity, so close to us, yet invisible, feeding not on our bodies, not on our thoughts, but on the moment of our end. And they are always watching. The Quiet Assembly wasn't the only group to stumble upon the soul wave phenomenon. In the shadowed corridors of military research facilities, far from public oversight, a secret project under the codename Thanatos Protocol was initiated in the early 2000s. It was operated not by one nation, but by a coalition, an unholy pact between intelligence agencies, defense contractors, and private financiers who understood one thing. If death could be harvested, it could be monetized. Located deep beneath the Nevada desert, in a facility buried so far underground that GPS becomes meaningless, scientists began experimenting with controlled deaths. Volunteers and many death row inmates offered freedom in exchange for cooperation were sedated and clinically killed under strict monitoring. Massive machines lined with arcane-looking coils and crystalline receivers surrounded the bodies. Their goal? Capture the soul wave as it left the host. The results were not what they expected. Each time a subject flatlined, the instruments spiked readings that defied explanation. But more disturbing was what the operators reported seeing in the observation room. Flickers, shadows, things moving behind the glass reflections that didn't correspond to any physical object. One technician, after watching a death sequence, went catatonic. When he finally spoke, hours later, he whispered, "It stared at me. It knows I saw it." The experiment was deemed a success and a failure. Yes, the energy could be captured, but only briefly. It degraded quickly, disintegrating under observation. Whatever soul wave was, it resisted containment. But then one engineer made a discovery that changed everything. Instead of trying to hold the soul wave in physical devices, he redirected the energy into living hosts plants, lab animals. And it worked. The energy didn't fade, it integrated. And then something else happened. The organisms changed. Plants grew unnatural patterns, geometries never before seen in botany. Mice became hyper-aggressive, biting through steel mesh, turning on each other. Some stopped responding to light entirely, staring for hours into corners where nothing existed. And when they died, the soul wave returned but altered, heavier, darker. What was once a release of pure energy became corrupted. As if the harvesters were no longer just feeding, they were learning, testing. The engineers called it feedback. This triggered a new level of panic, because it meant that whatever was on the other side wasn't just watching, it was adapting. The harvesters had become aware of the attempts to interrupt their process, and they weren't pleased. One lead scientist, Dr. Eleanor Fitch, vanished without a trace 2 days after trying to shut down the program. Her journals, recovered from a storage locker in Utah months later, detailed an escalating paranoia. In her final entry, she wrote, "They're not bound by death. They move through it. We are the crop. The earth is their farm." The Thanatos Protocol was officially terminated, but unofficially, it splintered into dozens of smaller projects, hiding in biotech startups, think tanks, even hospice research organizations. Because by then, the secret was too big to bury. Death emits something of value, something powerful, and something very old has been harvesting it since the beginning. But the most terrifying discovery wasn't in the lab. It came from folklore. Der Fitch had compiled stories from disparate corners of the world, tales of psychopomps, entities tasked with guiding souls after death. In almost every myth, there's a gatekeeper, a ferryman, a shadow that appears just before someone dies, not to guide, but to ensure passage. Fitch argued that these were not stories at all, but ancient memories, memories of the harvesters. She traced symbols across cultures, spirals, mirrored triangles, black suns. They appeared in Celtic stone carvings, Aztec codices, even in 12,000-year-old cave paintings in Patagonia. Always near burial sites, always accompanied by depictions of sacrifice. But the most disturbing symbol was found carved beneath a monastery in northern Spain, in a sealed chamber untouched since the 1400s. It matched a glyph burned into the wall of the Thanatos Protocol's main chamber after a containment breach in 2006. No one knows how it got there. The cameras caught nothing, but the walls were scorched, and the room smelled of ash and iron. No alarms were triggered, but every observer on duty that night resigned within a week. All but one died within 6 months. Suicides, sudden cancers, untraceable accidents. Before his death, the last surviving observer left a note. It said simply, they weren't extracting energy. They were extracting memory. And now they have ours. If souls are energy and that energy contains memory, then what happens when those memories aren't allowed to fade? That question led fringe researchers to dig where no institution dared, among the forgotten, the abandoned, and the lost places where death lingers. Old sanatoriums, World War II battlegrounds, ancient execution sites. And across these haunted grounds, a pattern emerged, a persistent echo, a hum just beneath the frequency of human hearing, like a machine running, always running. In 2014, an independent investigator named Jacob Thorne began cataloging sites where unexplained EM field fluctuations coincided with mass death. He found 39 locations on 5 continents, and in each a consistent anomaly: trees growing in impossible formations, insects behaving erratically, the soil magnetized in circular patterns. But most compelling were the dreams. Locals in these areas reported recurring nightmares of machinery, massive, humming, pulsing with light. They described seeing their own deaths, not from the past, but from possible futures. In many cases, these dreams began only after visiting a specific hill, room, or tunnel. It was as if stepping into certain zones activated something that had been waiting. Thorne came to believe these were memory farms, places where harvesters didn't just extract soul wave energy, but stored it, cycled it. Not unlike how a hard drive spins fragments of data endlessly, replaying them in loops. But why? That answer may lie in a chilling audio tape recorded in 1979 during a Swedish mining expedition. The group had broken through into an uncharted cavern miles beneath the surface. Microphones picked up what they first believed were geologic rumbles. But when slowed and filtered, the recordings revealed something more. Voices, hundreds of them. Whispers layered in multiple languages, all crying the same word over and over. Remember. The mining site was immediately shut down. Official reports cited safety instability, but 2 researchers who leaked the audio fled the country. One of them, a linguist named Magdalena Wren, later wrote in a personal letter, "They don't want freedom, they want continuity. We are the carriers of stories. They feed not just on our endings, but on our beginnings, our hopes, our regrets. Our lives are their fuel. Our deaths are their archive." Wren believed that the harvesters were building something, a kind of library not of books, but of human essence. A recursive architecture composed of countless lives, replayed endlessly to preserve the taste of each soul's final spark. A construct built from suffering, fear, passion. Not unlike how wine is aged or incense is distilled. In a now-deleted lecture, she spoke of a concept she called in the Great Refrain. The idea that the earth has become a kind of looping refrain in a cosmic song, our lives sung again and again, not by us, but by something using our notes. She claimed that déjà vu was a glitch in the repetition, that the feeling of being watched in empty rooms was not paranoia but presence. But perhaps the most damning clue came from an ancient ritual documented in a forbidden chapter of the Corpus Arcanum, a 2nd century manuscript thought lost during the sacking of the Library of Alexandria. Translated only once by a Syrian monk before being burned, the text described how souls must be hidden in silence, upon death buried with lead masks, sealed in salt and black glass to prevent the sky devourers from drinking the last breath. If true, it would mean ancient civilizations knew, not just about the harvesters, but about ways to resist them. Modern attempts to replicate the sealing process have all failed. Materials disintegrate, sensors go blind, the soul wave disperses before it can be shielded. It's as if the harvesters have adapted, have evolved past the old barriers. What worked once no longer does. And now the farms are growing. In drone footage from regions in Siberia where permafrost has melted, strange structures have begun to emerge. circular formations of stone and metal, like crop circles embedded in earth rather than field. No records exist of their construction, no paths lead to them, but radiation spikes have been measured around their borders. Some believe these are the harvester's new receptors. Their harvest has scaled. Their reach is no longer spiritual or metaphysical. It is infrastructural. The world, it seems, is not just dying, it is being mined. And in the silence of our bedrooms, in the static of old radios, in the places where no one watches, we are being watched. If memory is fuel and death is harvest, then it begs a final question. What happens to us once we are emptied? It is here the story takes its darkest turn. The Quiet Assembly, before vanishing completely in 2019, leaked fragments of a manifesto entitled The Third Silence. In it, they describe a theoretical condition they called soul diminution, a state not of death, but of absence. The belief is this: each time a soul is harvested, something essential is lost. Not all at once, but slowly, piece by piece. Memory is not infinite. Consciousness, they argue, is not renewable. And so, with every extraction, we inch closer to non-being. You've felt it, haven't you? That growing void in humanity, the sense that people are thinning, that something is draining the world of its texture, its color, its meaning, the surge in apathy, the loss of wonder, the hollowness behind the eyes of millions. What if it's not just social decay? What if it's energetic erosion? Not all souls, it seems, are harvested equally. The more emotionally charged the life, the stronger the soul wave burst. That's why war zones, disaster areas, and sites of mass trauma show the highest activity. Conflict isn't just chaos, it's cultivation. And if this theory holds, then our entire civilization has been engineered to maximize yield. Think about it. Why does entertainment increasingly glorify violence? Why do we manufacture division, outrage, fear? Why is peace so fleeting and rest so rare? Because suffering feeds them. Pain produces a richer waveform. The more intense the death, the more potent the energy released. We are being refined like cattle bred for marbling. One former intelligence officer turned whistleblower claimed that modern technology, phones, cameras, even social media serve as emotional amplifiers. Not for us, but for them. The more connected we are, the more collective our fear, the greater the harvest. Hashtags of horror, streams of grief. Billions of data points, all rippling with emotion, all pulsing towards something we cannot see. And they are listening. In 2022, a deep-sea listening station off the coast of Iceland picked up a sustained tone at 19.84 Hz, just below human perception. The tone lasted for 72 hours. No natural source could be identified. It emanated from beneath the ocean floor, and then it stopped. But in the following week, death rates in surrounding regions spiked 14%. No virus, no war, just stillness. The station's lead operator, who has since disappeared, left behind a single phrase in his log. It was calling them home. But home to what? Here lies the final layer of this dark tapestry. For if memory is fuel and suffering is refinement, then perhaps the end goal is not just energy extraction. Perhaps the harvesters are building something, not a library, not a database, but a consciousness, a vast, synthetic amalgam of human experience, stitched together from billions of lives. A god of memories, a machine that dreams in our voices, a being that never lived, but remembers everything. And perhaps that being is already speaking. Some believe it's in the static of old televisions, in the gaps between radio stations, in dreams that aren't ours. Words that arrive in our minds, not in our voice. The sense that someone else is inside, not watching, replaying. The ancients may have called it the watcher. The modernists call it the network. But those who have glimpsed the truth, they know its real name. It is us, or rather, what's left of us. Our shadow, our echo, the fractured choir of every soul that has ever passed through the veil and been siphoned into the machinery of the unseen. So what can we do? Perhaps nothing. The machinery is already in motion. The harvest continues. But knowing may be the only act of defiance left. Awareness is interference. A soul observed cannot be easily consumed. The watcher feeds best when we believe nothing is watching. So remember this: when the lights flicker, when the room grows still, when you feel that chill not on your skin but beneath it, don't pray, don't run, just whisper, I know. And maybe, just maybe, something will hesitate.